What's up, everyone? This is Karak with ACG, formerly Angry Centaur Gaming. Today I'm bringing you the wild world of sports and fisticuffs fashion. That's right, EA Sports UFC 2. You guys know how I felt about the previous offering. Let's see what's improved, shall we? As always, if you like the review, maybe subscribe. So here's the review for EA UFC 2. Female Fighters Part 1, the nightmare of Mike Tyson in kickboxing form, and the world's slowest reacting menus. Graphics are up first. One thing I have to say is that they absolutely shored up the sometimes atrocious frame rate drops during cutscenes and walk-ins that the prior title had. There are still momentary drops at the start of a cut, almost like they're running the same process in the background, but after that, the overall presentation is much improved. Also improved is the collision detection once you get inside the ring during both the fighting and the grappling, and that glove meets mug moment where you're basically trying to push someone's soul into the back of their head have a more kinetic feel to them, especially during knockouts, which are now calculated in real time using velocity and momentum, which surprisingly wasn't done prior to this, and it really shows. Movement and animation here are well done, but the honest truth is that many times it can still look a bit odd as characters have a tendency to jitter and judder across the screen as a concession to players entering moves far faster than any human can move. In fact, in many ways, UFC 2 excels, both when not making contact and just after having done so, or when not moving and just after having moved. Depending on locations, moves can be horribly truncated, removing most of the range of an attack, so a punch up against the side of a cage can look like you're saying, "Hey dude, check out this awesome font on the lettering of my gloves," where it looks like you're scratching their face versus trying to Shang Tsung them into the ring. It's strange that a problem in the past being fixed has now resulted in, surprise, another problem. This is also horribly noticeable when you're on top of somebody in the up position and you're punching down at them. Really strange looking punches. However, skin texturing, which has always been a highlight in the UFC games, is absolutely spectacular here. They have always had a good lighting system as well, but in UFC 2 it's stepped up a bit closer to Uncanny Valley, especially when you watch as Holly Holmes' rat nest hairdo or Conor McGregor's homeless man high cut coif go wrong looks so excellent. Hair really looks much better in this title, though not perfect. Graphically, the flow and rhythm are sound, with the skin of combatants shaking and moving and rippling in proper scary-ass accordion-like style, especially if your character's packing on some Roy Nelsons in his midriff like mine was. I think the real thing that I noticed right away is that graphically, especially with the animation, the thing is sort of hit and miss. Sometimes when you hit with the power of a freight train, and the knockdown is absolutely violent in its energy, causing you to verbally wonder if that character's ever going to see colors again. Other times, it's like you and your opponent have decided to nappy nap time, and you apparently lay down with a bit of your blankie. Lastly, I'll just say that unlike its brother and sister sports titles, many times UFC 2 feels like that middle kid that doesn't get a ton of attention. Where the other titles have huge storylines, in UFC 2 even the career mode is so basic that occasionally you're just going to get a still picture and a blurb that says something happened and this is the effect it has on you. The pomp and circumstance that really makes up UFC is why the fights are so enjoyable, and that's in their presentation. The trash talks, the up and coming discussions, the interviews, the behind the scenes shots, and the weigh-ins. Much of that is completely missing here. Not all of it, but much of it. I guess I'd say while parts of it look excellent, the little issues here and there, as well as the absolutely anemic presentation, does it no good. And despite many fighters looking far more real, the physics and collision detection being shored up, the randomness in which those improvements play out still needs some work. Sound, music, and voice.
He continues to connect with those punches. Suzuki with a solid jab. He's finding his rhythm here early in the round. Oh, huge suplex. Straight left. Wow, what a back and forth exchange. Hard straight punch. Looking to finish it right here. Oh my goodness.
And as always, sound is up first in this group. Listen, many of the UFC 2 samples are done in-house, and indeed during live taping. So while the wet smashing of lettuce head sounds that occurred when punching someone's cut in past titles is gone, the overall sonic representation here is fairly good. The thick thrum of a kick slamming into a fatty's gut resounds through the mics, and when a takedown ends in a body slam, you can hear the entire cage shake and groan. It's good, but it's not great. Music. Okay, First, yes, in every single loading screen the music skips and stutters, and worse yet, sometimes slows down, resulting in someone's rap turning into the beginning of a damn exorcism. Now, that being said, it's always been hit and miss, and though this title has more flexibility in its presentation and in the titles they've chosen, it seems to have less terribly done remixes as well, and that's always a positive. Voice. Well, we have pretty much everyone who matters in the UFC lending their voices, and since many are from the live broadcast, they sound authentic to the time. Unfortunately, in the career mode and many other modes, people don't speak at all, which is weird. But in the fights, Mike Goldberg's slight sedated and almost questioning style works well with Joe Rogan's more "I just snorted 2 tons of cocaine and I'm about to explode" style. Sadly, as with every single title prior, the game constantly gets stuff wrong. If a cutscene isn't pointing out the wrong fighter pretending they won the round, then Rogan's yelling it's over, and it's never over. It's happened countless times. Luckily, the easy sideways banter of these two still works really well during fights for the most part, but they mistake a bad kick for a solid punch a ridiculous number of times. I would say 7 times out of 10 they were either wrong about the fight's conclusion or wrong pretty much about the entire fight. Gameplay. Listen, this isn't a surprise. You're punching, kicking, choking, slamming, slapping, tripping, breaking, and armbarring people until one of you quits. This isn't called the ultimate role-player gamer, so let's discuss the one thing that matters the most here, which is the pugilistic and punishing prowess of punch-drunk people. But apparently, through much of the fight, you're wearing love mittens. Listen. Once again, you have these people sucking up full-speed spin kicks to their domes with the regularity of car payments, and many times, nothing effing happens. I kicked one dude in the head 33 times once I started counting, and nothing happened. The game hinges far more on the let's barely do any damage mindset than in any way on some kind of moderate simulation, depending on the difficulty, of course, but even at the hardest, this still happens. For newcomers, this is going to be a fantastic thing, because you can basically lick the A button and still stay alive for quite some time, so that helps people jump in. But if you're skilled at the game, it flatly refuses to award you in the punching game whatsoever, even if it looks sometimes like you're killing somebody. That's not to say that fighting isn't fun, it is. It's just that much of the time it can feel like you're lining up Butter Knuckles McGillicuddy and Ron Love Palms Anderson. Add in the fact that when you start, you have the stamina of a damn baby bird. I mean, 3 punches if they aren't clean combos, and you're going to start leeching stamina post-haste. Now, it's sort of like getting the 4 heaviest dudes at the local Magic tournament and basing stamina on them, regardless if you're a champion or not. That being said, that does mean one awesome thing, and that is that spammers in online are going to gas out fucking fast, which is nothing but an absolute plus. Now, the ground game pretty much continues as is, with the changes like removing the Street Fighter style half circle movements with more of a binary choice, and you see if that choice works before the opponent can stop it kind of style. Both have their place, but I have to admit this one felt a bit more engaging, and once again for newcomers it's going to be easier to understand what's up, even if it does throw in another stick prompt randomly to advance the submission if you're the attacker. You see here now submissions can have varying degrees of completion, like applied, tightening, cinched in, or oh shit, he's now dead. It's unique, and in many UFC fights it's never noticed unless you're someone who understands MMA. I would say it added a bit of strategy, but in the end it really wasn't groundbreaking, but that might have been because I was staring at the prompt the entire time instead of the people, or maybe that's a good thing, because Jesus Christ, this is the slowest ground game I've ever seen. Moving from one position to the next is hilariously lethargic. Now, despite the somewhat anemic presentation, there are a ton of options in the title, with the return of the Creative Fighter, where you can go in and choose moves with modifiers to power and stamina drain. So if you want a harder hitting jab, you can have it. If you want your choke to do far more damage but be more draining on you to hold, you can have that. Now that's a nice discord with prior titles where much of what everyone did sort of felt the same, and that push-pull and risk and reward is actually played out here with stamina again being so damned important. Something that is true in a real fight as well when you think about it. Then you have career mode, where you can fight through the Ultimate Fighter House and enter the UFC and then go on and take fights and train and try to be the top of your class before retiring. An add-on here is you can get hurt during training, which is a stab at some kind of reality, but it can be easily mitigated. The exercises to raise stats are pretty bog standard through these kind of titles, and 1 or 2 of them are nut-crunchingly hard, like the random heavy bag moves on the hardest level. Luckily, whatever you score, you can then have the game automatically sim you through from that point on, so you only need to score well once. Now, KO mode, or as I dubbed it, the Chuck Liddell Retirement Factory. This is stupendous fun, and as a digital title, I would have bought this up. It has the basic removal of almost all grappling. This is a short-lived battle to cause horrid brain injuries as quickly as you can. I mean, it's pretty simple. You basically just hammer and counter-hammer the ever-living shit out of one another with massive strength and speed attribute bonuses until someone's head caves in. It sounds weak and effectively light as a mode, but I've found my counter game increasing dramatically after playing that, as well as just living for that moment that getting hit in the ribs caused my character to almost spontaneously drill a china in response. Then you have team mode, where you can take up to 5 fighters that you create and sort of control them as a stable. Perform well and get points to buy cards that can upgrade your fighters, unlock moves, and increase their abilities. This is pretty much what goes on in the other sports titles. Here also you can buy actual coins for real money to do the same. So in the end, there is some microtransactions in this title. Your mileage is going to vary, as I found I was unlocking so much stuff that without buying anything, I was hard-pressed to really find an issue that I felt needed to be shored up with real cash. You also have a fully fleshed out online system with leaderboards, and I am happy to report online, at least right now, is working really well, unreasonably well, surprisingly well. Controls are fluid, and I didn't seem to have any issues, and again, spammers, at least for the most part, were stamina drained more quickly than I remember happening in the prior title. There's also an excellent training mode where you can jump in a ring, set the parameters for your enemy, and practice until your heart's content. It's a great place to understand floor work, so if you're having a problem with that, this is where to go. Cutting off the ring and how to best utilize stamina, all things you can learn in here. There are some great options. Of course, a game like this is made or broken on its AI. Well, aside from an almost unnerving ability to ignore getting punched consistently in the face and or to block on anything but the highest settings, I would say it's barely passable, but someone who understands combinations is going to give it trouble, though once again we do at times see that superhuman speed of the computer in grappling situations. It's best to use it for training if you're really good at these kind of games, but for somebody who isn't and is just sort of casual, it's going to offer a somewhat significant difficulty depending on who you're fighting and how it's all set up. And the most important part, women have been included. That's right. Last is most important here. The inclusion of women in MMA games is a long-running request, and here we have it. Now, there are basically a couple other smaller modes that sort of overlap the other ones, but my favorite is create your own events. This might be my favorite mode of all time. I made a dream card. This is a card that's buy-in rate would have made all of last year's UFC's combined look anemic, with title fight after title fight after title fight. It was great, and then playing through them, picking a side and just sort of going with it. Very enjoyable little mode right there. As a package, I'd say that UFC 2 really offers a tremendous number of modes, has very good online so far, and includes women in the roster, which is awesome. Sadly, the fighting itself can sway between looking amazing and downright horrible in a split second, and unfortunately, so too does the feeling of that fighting, despite the fact that it's still got a plethora of moves. Fun factor. Hey, I'm going to admit I had a good time. Sure, it looked foolish sometimes, and the ground game, though enjoyable, has you staring at prompts more than it should have. You can, of course, turn those off, by the way. UFC 2 improves a lot, but it doesn't escape unscathed with its new issues either, and unfortunately, they directly affect buyability. So I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touched again rating scale. Honestly, this is a wait for a sale. The anemic presentation of the actual sport, plus the wonky mid-move game, just could not be shaken as I played this. It looks good at times, then it looks terrible. It plays well, but then it plays terrible. It never feels like you're in the UFC, like its career mode would have you believe. One step forward, and sadly, 2 or 3 steps back. Now, of course, what's always nice about these titles is you can look at what I pointed out, and if those things don't bother you so much, boom, go ahead and enjoy the title, because in the end, I'm not quite sure just how much of a sale would be needed to get this. It's really running the line between buy and wait for a sale. As always, if you like this video, hit thumbs up. If you dislike it, hit thumbs down, and maybe check out our Patreon if you get a chance, or come by our Reddit. Peace out, and enjoy your weekend.